Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we will review the highlights of this week's Daf Yomi course of study. Masechet Shabbat, 72 through 78, Ayin Bet through Ayin Chet. 72. Nitkaven lahagbiya tatalush. If a person had in mind to lift up what he thought was a detached item, but it turns out chatachet hamechubar, he actually cut and severed an attached item, let's say for example a cucumber, a piece of produce that was still attached to the ground, patur, he is exempt, despite the fact that in reality this person has committed the act of the malacha of kotzer, of harvesting, of reaping. Still, because the intention was not to harvest anything, there is an exemption. Rashi explains, this is the classic case of mitasek. The halachic concept of mitasek is that when I do one thing, but I thought I was doing something completely different and had no realization that I was doing a certain malacha, that is not even shogeg, inadvertent, but rather that is mitasek and completely exempt. However, what about in the following case? Nitkaven lachtochet hatalush, your intention was to cut a detached item, v'chatachet hamechubar, but you in fact cut an attached item. In that case, the Rava says you're still exempt. It is still a case of mitasek. Whereas Abaye says, chayav, you are liable because he does not extend the principle of mitasek that far. Since your intention was to cut something, there is an element of culpability. Ayin Gimel, 73. Hachofer guma b'Shabbat, if you dig a hole in the ground on Shabbat, but you only need the dirt. You don't actually need the hole in the ground, you just need supply of dirt. Patur aleha, you were exempt. There's no biblical liability here. V'afilu Rabbi Yehuda, and even according to the viewpoint of Rabbi Yehuda, who generally holds malacha shenat tzricha l'gufa chayav aleha, that performing a labor not for its defined purpose is nonetheless biblically problematic and results in liability. In this instance, he would say you are patur, exempt, because his invoking of the principle of malacha shenat tzricha l'gufa chayav only holds true in cases where you do something constructive. But here you did something destructive in that you made a hole in the ground, you messed things up. And thus, because it is mikalkel, the exemption holds true. Ayin Daled, 74. The Gemara wants to know why three malachot, which are basically the same action, or with the same intention, are reckoned in the 39 malachot as three separate malachot. Hainu zoreh, hainu borer, hainu meraked. Isn't winnowing and sorting and sifting all the same thing? As Rashi explains, we're simply separating the ochel min hapsolet, the good from the bad, the edible from the inedible. To this, Abaye and Rava both say, Kol milta dehavya b'mishkan, whatever action existed or was done in the process of constructing or using the Mishkan, afagav dika dedamula, even though there is something that is fairly similar to it, chashivla will nonetheless be recognized as its own distinct av malacha, primary category of labor. Ayin Hey, 75. The Mishnah says that if you write two letters, you are guilty of the malacha of writing. Hakotev shtei otiyot. Well, what happens, addresses the Braita, in a case where you write one letter, but it's a very large letter, ot achat gedola, that is the size that on that space you could have written two letters. Will there be liability or not? To this, the Braita says, patur, you are exempt. However, flip it around, machak otachat gedola, if you erase one really large letter, and on that spot there is sufficient room on the page to write two letters, in that case you are chayav, you are liable. Why the difference? Why in the case of writing is there an exemption, but in the case of erasing there's liability? To this, Rashi explains that the whole point of the malacha of erasing, why it's reckoned as a malacha at all, is that on the spot where you erase, you allow for yourself room to then, after the fact, write something new. And since when you erase the very large letter, you have created for yourself enough space on the page to write two new letters, that results in the malacha of mochek, of erasing. Ayin Vav, 76. The Mishnah addresses how much wine one has to carry in the public domain to be guilty of carrying. Hamotzi yain kedem bezigat kos. So the amount is enough to mix a cup of wine. And the Gemara says, kos yafeh, a nice cup of wine. What is a nice cup of wine? This is the cup used for birkat hamazon, kos shel bracha. Well, how much wine actually goes into the kos shel bracha? And to this, the Gemara says, rova revi'it. Actually, it's only 1/4 of a revi'it of pure wine, which then is mixed with 3/4 of a revi'it of water to make a full revi'it. So if you carry in the public domain that quarter of a revi'it of pure wine, you have liability. Ein Zayin, 77. Here the Gemara offers a theological statement. Kol ma shebara kadosh baruch hu ba'olamo, everything that God created in his world, lo bara davar echad avatala, nothing was created that was superfluous, but rather everything, even the smallest creature, which we might not think has any real purpose, in fact does have a purpose. The Gemara gives the example, several examples, but one of them is bara zvuv l'tzirah, that a gnat exists as a way of curing a hornet's sting. So every little tiny creature has something, some use for it in this world. Daf Ayin Chet, 78. Rabbanan Savri, Asur lishot shtapro betoch beito. The rabbis were of the viewpoint that it is forbidden for a person to maintain, to hold on to a loan document in one's home if that loan was already paid off. Meaning, if I am a lender and a borrower writes a loan document and gives it to me, well, when he repays the loan and the loan is finished and over, I am not supposed to hold on to that document, because then, if I do, I could use it to cheat and to claim that the loan was never paid off and to demand further payment. And so therefore, it is immoral and thus illegal in the eyes of the rabbis to hold on to an already paid off loan document. Rabbi Yehuda Savar Mutar Lishot. Rabbi Yehuda, however, holds it is permissible to hold on to this document, of course, so long as you don't try to cheat and take double payment. Rashi explains the view of the rabbis, Mishum Shenemar, because it says in the Tanakh, Al tashken b'ohalacha avla, do not allow any avla, any evil thing, to reside in your home. So since this loan document could be used for nefarious purposes, it is best if it never exists in the first place in your home. Everyone have a great week.